Montana Ag Live is made possible by the Montana Department of Agriculture, the MSU Extension Service, the MSU Ag Experiment Stations of the College of Agriculture, the Montana Wheat and Barley Committee, Cashman Nursery and Landscaping, the Northern Pulse Growers Association, and the Gallatin Gardeners Club.
Good evening. Welcome to Montana Ag Live, originating tonight from the studios of KUSM on the very dynamic campus of Montana State University and coming to you over the Montana Public Television System. I'm Jack Rieselman. I'll be your host this evening, retired professor of plant pathology. And those of you who've watched the program in the past, you know how this works. There's a phone number on the screen. If you have questions for our panel this evening, phone them in. The sooner you get them in, the better chance you'll have that they will be answered. And without your questions, this program gets pretty boring. As you well know, this spring series is featuring women in agriculture, and it's really been fun to do this because they have really taken over agriculture. There's more women going into agriculture now than men are. So it's really been a pleasure to feature some of the women. We have a guest tonight that I'm glad she's here. She came all the way from Ballantyne, and I will tell you where Ballantyne is in a little bit later. But before we do that, let me introduce this evening's panel. Clayton Jones. Clayton is our soil fertility specialist, cropping systems, all kinds of things that he does. Our special guest tonight, all the way from Ballantyne, which is 30 miles east of Billings,
Yep.
Kate Vogel. Kate is the co-owner of North 40 Ag. She's a certified crop advisor. She's done a lot on cover crops out in that area, so she'll share with us some of what she does out there, and we have lots of questions that have come in that will focus on some of the things you've done. Everybody knows Lori Krasenik. She's our entomologist. Hey, we have some entomology questions here. Other words, bug questions. If you've got bugs that are bothering you, and most people do, good chance to get them answered this evening. And of course, Tim Seipel. Tim, he has all these fancy titles, but he is a weed scientist. So if you have questions about weeds this evening, it's an excellent opportunity to get them answered. Kate, thanks for coming down. Tell us a little bit about what you do out in Ballantyne.
Yeah, so in 2014, right after my husband and I got married, we decided the best thing to do for a new marriage was to start a business. And so
brave, aren't you?
Yeah. So my husband and his family, his brothers and dad and uncle all farm right there and feed cattle. And so he had been experimenting with some cover crops, and we'd had some issues finding seed and knowing what some of the things were in there. And I had been working with cover crops for the years before and did some work with no-till and cropping systems before that, and so we decided that we could educate and make it a much better experience if we sold seed ourselves. So back then we started up selling seed, and then we do a lot of education with it. We'd put on field days and workshops throughout the winter to try to get people to understand what's going on, and then offer a lot of service when we're doing our sales.
Sounds like a lot of fun, but before we go any farther, you know, we've used the term cover crop on this program a lot. And I'm sure some of the people sitting in Bozeman, Missoula, and Billings may not know what a cover crop is. What is a cover crop?
There's probably a lot of definitions of a cover crop.
I'm sure there is.
Well, specifically in Montana, we see it used a lot of times in lieu of crop or between crops. So it's something to keep roots living in the ground, in the soil. It also can be used for a bunch of different goals. But a lot of times we see it in place of fallow for like a whole season long. But it's a crop of usually a mixed diversity, different species, to try to achieve a specific goal that landowner or user is trying to get.
Okay, we'll get back to that in a little bit. I forgot to mention, we have a couple phone answers here in the studio tonight. We have Nancy Blake and Jennifer Weiss taking your phone calls, and they look like they're busy, so keep trying. The more phone calls we get, the more exciting this program becomes. Tim, a question that came in last week. This person wants to know your opinion of weed and feed for lawns versus just fertilizer or weed control. What do you think?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think the weed and feed, it has a little 2,4-D in it, it has a little sulfentrazone in it, it has a little MCPA in it, and it also has fertilizer in it. So it's gonna get those broadleafs mostly. I think if you wanna make one pass, that's probably your best bet. If you wanna separate your nitrogen and your weed control, you can also do that, but it would take a little bit more labor. I like my dandelions, I like my clover in my yard, and I don't like to mow very much, so I don't weed and feed.
I can buy that. Okay, great answer, thank you. Kate, this question came in from Manhattan. This person would like to know, are there any cover crops that could be used to attract wildlife? That's an interesting question.
We get that quite a bit, actually. So I'd say species specific, like what kind of wildlife are you looking for? Are you looking for more birds or more big game? But there's definitely a lot of different things we can do. A lot of times we put for big game, we'll put in a lot of broadleaf species, but then also, corn, sorghum sedans, a lot of those are very attractive. If you're looking more for birds, we're gonna say, some of the millets that drop seed, and then a lot of flowering species that will attract insects.
Okay, sounds good. Carpenter ants. This person thinks they have carpenter ants, Lori. They have hills next to the house. I don't think those would be carpenter ants, would they be?
They'd probably be field ants. Yes, if you see the hills, they actually call those thatching ants or mound ants. So I'd be happy to look at a sample for you, but I think carpenter ants would be probably, you'd see some sawdust associated with them, and the mounds make me think that it's probably a field ant, which are harmless, and just let them be.
Okay. I have both you and Kate up. You mentioned pollinators and stuff like that. There's an interesting article today in the Bozeman paper about the number of bee species that we have in the state of Montana.
Yeah.
It's amazing. You want to just touch on that a little bit?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So there's an article, like Jack said, that just came out in the Daily Chronicle, and this is about native bees and talking about the wild bees this is a Wild Bees of Montana project with Casey Delphia and Mike Ivey, and it's going to be a 15-year project to try to see what native bees we have out in Montana, and they estimate anywhere between 750 to 1,000 native species. And when the project started, I think they said they had about 250, so way more than they're anticipating way more than they originally thought, and pretty fantastic project that they're bringing together.
It is amazing.
Yeah.
It really is.
Subodh Adhikari was a graduate student at MSU in the LRES department, and around the Big Sandy area, he did a project and found over 130 bee species, even just out in wheat fields with very little pollinator nectar available.
That's amazing. They're an important insect. They really are.
Yeah, Montana's a really interesting spot because you have species coming from the Arctic zone and species coming from the Pacific Northwest, and so you're getting a lot of diversity compared to other states.
Okay. Clayton, and then I want to switch back to Kate. This question came in last week, the week before, and again this evening. It has to do with the costs of NPK, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. They're all up this year. Can a spring wheat producer, reduce the amount of nitrogen and still expect a good yield and proper protein?
So what Jack's referring to, for those of you who aren't farmers, is fertilizer prices have doubled or tripled just since last August. So it's a very serious bite into a producer's bottom line. Fortunately, most commodity prices, so wheat and corn and others, have also gone up, so revenue will be up, but the risk becomes much higher when all those input costs are high. Spring wheat is a wheat that producers get paid for high protein, and they get what's called docked for lower protein. So they can cut back on nitrogen and probably some, and not have a big yield drop. But if they cut back too much on nitrogen, they probably will have a protein drop. So it's a trade-off with these high both wheat prices and nitrogen fertilizer costs, and some consequences we're seeing for high nitrogen rates like soil acidification. This might be a year to start trying to cut back on nitrogen rates.
So I'm going to ask you a question. I want to have Kate verify it. But with the drought, there's probably some residual nitrate or nitrogen in the soil, which, if you did a soil test, I know you always recommend soil tests, you would find out that you may not have to use as much nitrogen. Is that correct?
That's correct. There's a commercial lab named AgVise out of North Dakota and Minnesota that does a great job of keeping track of residual nitrate collected in the fall. And what they showed was in 2021, nitrate levels about doubled from where they are typically. So for the producer that just says, I'm going to apply the same thing I always apply, they're probably over applying. It is the year really to soil test and make sure that what you think you have is actually there. Some of it might have leached over winter, some might still be there. So soil testing becomes really important after a drought.
Okay, so now I'm going to ask Kate. I've heard you for years promote soil tests. Kate, you work with a lot of growers.
Mm-hmm.
What percentage of the growers that you work with actually do soil testing?
I think a smaller percentage. I don't think it's a huge percentage that do it, but we have done a lot of soil testing this fall, especially we've had guys who can see the value in it with the price of fertilizer. And I can verify that we're seeing huge amounts of nitrogen left out there in the field. So there's a few fields that aren't going to require any nitrogen at all. So I think, like you said, if you're going to decrease your fertilizer, this would be the year. But if you're going to only soil test one time, I think you could see significant profitability just from doing some of those soil tests right now, because you could cut a lot of fertilizer.
Okay, I think we covered that well. Thank you, too. We have a question, and again, it's come in a couple times, has to do with pines, that the tips are not looking good. And you have something there?
Yeah, this isn't a pine, but we can certainly talk about it. But a lot of the pines we're seeing the tip die back, and that happened last year, and I think even the year before. And a little bit, some of it's abiotic, which means it's not caused by an insect or disease, and sometimes it's we have had some terminal weevils, beetles that we've seen in the tops of the trees. The only way to really know is to get a sample from the top, and sometimes it's pretty difficult to do that. But this right here is damage that we have, and this is pretty common. We've had this quite a bit and for many years. This is white pine weevil damage. And this is a small weevil that lays eggs on the outside of spruce trees. And at the top of and then it'll cause at the top of the tree, and then it'll cause the leader to they call it a shepherd's crook, kind of curve over a little bit. And so this is right now is actually the time to treat if you wanted to treat for this pest chemically. And you can actually spray the terminal with a class of insecticides called pyrethroids. Or this is one actually that you can prune out, and actually you need to wait for the beetles to all be underneath the bark, which would probably be in a few weeks. And so maybe try to prune this out sometime in June. And you just would prune out the top of the leader and maybe prune down a few inches below where you see the last exit hole of the beetle.
You'd have a new leader that takes over then.
Yeah, if it's a young tree, you can train a new leader,
Exactly.
and then you won't lose the shape of the tree. If it's an older tree, you're going to end up lopping the top of it, and it's just not going to look very pretty. But
Okay, thank you. I have a call about CCA, but before we do that, I want to go to Tim quickly, and this person from Billings would like to know a good way to encourage control of spotted knapweed on Forest Service land, and also what's the best way to control spotted knapweed?
On Forest Service land, I think I would talk to your county weed board and then the Forest Service, and they'll have some representatives that can get in touch with everyone and probably get a plan to manage the knapweed on Forest Service land. Jane Mangold's the best person to ask about spotted knapweed control, but I think in general, it's there's a couple of herbicides out there like Stinger or Curtail that get used fairly often, and then Rimsulfuron, and I can't remember, Telar is one of the mixes as well that people end up using quite a lot too.
Okay.
Tim, is there any biocontrol, like insects that are released for knapweed?
Yeah, there are insect biocontrols for knapweed, and there's multiple ones that are out there. I don't know exactly how widespread they are all over the place, but in some places they do wear the knapweed down pretty well and can at least knock it back really far.
Okay. Kate from Forsyth, this person would like to know what CCA means and how you become a CCA person. And Clayne and Kate, you can both jump in on this one.
Perfect. CCA means Certified Crop Advisor. And I did my CCA several years ago. It was right after I got out of school, but you have to take a test. And then you have to have so much experience and so much study in order to get your certification for that. And then each year, every 2-year cycle, you have to have continuing education credits to maintain that CCA.
Clayne, you want to add anything?
Yeah, you can take exams either in February or August, and now they're going to online, so you can take them anytime, which is convenient. You have to pass a local exam, which tends to be more focused on, wheat, barley, peas, oil seeds, and then what's called an international exam that's more focused on, all the crops that might grow in North America. Once you pass those 2 tests, like Kate said, and you have basically 2 years of experience after a bachelor's degree, you can become a certified crop advisor.
How many in the state do we have?
So there's about 90 in the state and close to 100 between Montana and Wyoming. And if anyone has questions on the program, I'm the 20-year-long chair. I've been the chair for a long time, and so I can probably answer your questions.
Okay. I'll mention, and we talked about this a little before the program. About 30, 35 years ago when I started around here, it was pretty easy to know a fair amount about cropping because all we did was wheat, barley, rotation, fallow, wheat, barley. Today, with the diversity of crops that we have in the state, it's probably more difficult to be knowledgeable in all those. So it's challenging, right?
Yeah,
Definitely.
Yep. Not everyone passes the exam.
I don't think I would. I'm not sure we can answer this one, but we'll try. From Ovando, the caller has 28 acres of dryland pasture with bare spots. She grazes 5 horses on it. She wants to maintain weed control, but would like to improve the bare spots. Any suggestions on that?
Ooh, I think the best competition against weeds is good grass coverage in those bare spots. So I would say get out there and maybe seed those this spring if you can, or try to get something growing on those bare spots. And I think that's really how to maintain the best weed-free sort of area. Yeah, I wouldn't know. It would be interesting to hear why those bare spots are there.
She says red sorrel is the main weed. What is red sorrel?
Oh, okay. Oh, so red sorrel. Actually, it might be called sheep sorrel as well. Red sorrel, sheep sorrel. It's a rumex species in the genus Rumex, which is this curly dock is also in that genus, and so it can be toxic to livestock. So it would have oxaloacetate in it, I think. So OAA. So it becomes a weed. It's a big, curly dock can be a real weed in irrigated pastures sometimes, and so sheep sorrel kind of behaves the same way. It's a rhizomatous plant that spreads out. There's probably a few ways you could manage it. Probably something like 2,4-D, and then really promoting that grass, or a broadleaf herbicide and promoting the grass.
Okay, thank you. Kate, from Billings, they've heard about cover crops. They don't see a lot of them in the state. How extensive are the cover crop acres in the state? Do you have any clue on that?
I can say it's definitely been increasing. I mean, just judging from what we're selling in seed, last year we were right around that 85,000 acres, and some of that was just monoculture, but I'd say 60,000 of that was, mixed species cover crops that were going out there, either in lieu of fallow or, in a potato rotation or after crop. That's just us, so I'd imagine throughout the region or other sales, there's a lot more out there. So it's becoming pretty significant.
Okay, thank you. From Fairfield, this person tore out an old alfalfa grass field and will replant with new alfalfa. Will the old alfalfa affect the new seeding? And I think it will. Anybody want to answer that?
Yeah.
I would go to a cereal rotation for a few years and just clean up all the old alfalfa and start over.
It's really difficult to seed into an established alfalfa stand. Even if that alfalfa is fading out, it has a lot of allelopathic chemicals that it's releasing out there. About the only time you can interseed into alfalfa is in that first year of establishment if that stand comes back pretty weak. A lot of times we have guys who will try to interseed into that alfalfa with either a perennial grass to try to, stimulate that and go with an alfalfa grass, or they can, to extend it one more year, might throw in sorghum sudan or a grain. Otherwise, I'd agree with Tim. You need to probably terminate that alfalfa and plant either a cereal, or we have a lot of people who are planting, if it's irrigated, they might put in a cereal, hay that off, and then plant a warm season's cover crop and graze that. So you can almost double crop it in that time frame.
On that note, is there any issues with grazing? I know a lot of people are grazing cover crops now. Is there any toxicity issues potential with young cows or heifers? Or
There's toxicity issues with anything you graze. We talked about weed species that might be out there, or certain grass species. So diversity is going to help that. I've talked to definitely different cover crops can have some issues. There can be prussic acid at frost with sorghum sedans. Buckwheats can have a phagopyrin that can cause sun sensitivity. But overall, it's going to be that diversity is going to play a bigger role in that. So if you can have more things out there that they're not focusing on one certain thing, that's going to help. And just knowing what the risks are for those species that you put into the mix so you can avoid them during certain times.
Okay. I remember years ago we used to top beets and turn the cattle in, and the cattle would graze the beets, and you lose a few because they choke. I know turnips are used a lot in cover crops. Is there a danger of cattle ingesting those and choking?
There is, yeah. I've actually had a grower who had a heifer choke on a turnip, and then he, to verify that, cut it out and threw it back on the ground, and then he thought twice and cut it in half so someone else didn't come back and get it. But in that situation, a lot of the things we've been changing into forage collards, they have more of a taproot. They don't have that bulb at the top. And so you get multiple taproots that go into the ground so that can achieve some of that what you're trying to achieve with a brassica anyway, and then it has a lot of forage biomass on top. Or some of the hybrid turnips, they keep that tuber much deeper into the ground, and so it's not as easily to pull out. And depending on when you're grazing in the season, those sizes are going to change. So turnips can get to the size of a softball, which then mitigates the problem, but it just depends on when you're grazing that. So again, planning that and making those decisions before you plant it and you're going to turn in.
Okay, I have a couple more questions that have come in about cover crops we'll get to in a minute, but I have a Facebook question here from Ron in Missoula. They have black-gray bugs that are coming into the house by the hundreds. They're being invaded. I see them in the fall too. I found some in my firewood piles. What are they, and will they damage the trees around the house?
Well, we do have a couple of, if they're smaller, we do have a couple of seed bugs that are kind of black-gray color they're called dirt-colored seed bugs that are coming in by the hundreds, and also they come in the fall too. So it could be those. The one thing that we don't know too much about them. So yeah, they're invasive, but they're not really anything. They're not doing anything terrible, but they're often associated with areas that are adjacent to weedy pastures or on areas that have quite a bit of weeds. So they feed on weeds. They're not going to damage trees. They're just annoying. They come in, and they like to sit in firewood too. So if you have firewood piles close to the house, they'll come in that way as well. So
Okay.
Not damaging.
All right, thank you. From Miles City, this person has been considering cover crops, but they're curious as to whether or not this would be a good time to start with them, because with fertilizer prices being high, do they require fertilizer like the cereal crops?
So I think it kind of depends on what you're going with. On some of the cool season species, oats, peas, barley kind of as the base, sometimes we will recommend a little bit of fertility with those just because you're planting them into cooler soils, you don't have as much nitrogen moving. But typically in most cover crop situations, we don't recommend to put fertility out there. A lot of times we're trying to put legumes, we're trying to get those soils active in the soil biology to start working, and so we see that when you put that fertility out there, you're not going to make that soil as active. The warm season species, for sure, they have a much lower fertility requirement to begin with, and though they're planted in much warmer temperatures, so you're starting to see some of that nutrient cycling anyway. So typically, in most situations, unless you have a soil test to verify, we don't usually recommend adding fertility to a cover crop.
Okay, thank you.
Jack, and I'd like to just mention that MSU just put together 3 extension guides on nutrient management and soil health effects of cover crops. And they can find, anybody can find those on the Extension Publications store site.
You mentioned the term soil health,
Yeah.
and I want to know how cover crops increase soil health. I'm curious because I really don't know. So have at it, guys.
Okay, I'll go first and then Kate can follow. So what we're finding in research that's between 8 and 18 years old, mainly we're growing cover crops in place of fallow. That's kind of a good fit in Montana for them. And what we're finding is organic matter increases because the amount of residue that's being returned to the soil increases. And when soil organic matter increases, generally biological activity increases. Physical parameters like infiltration rate, the amount of aggregates, which are small clumps of soil, they increase, and often fertility increases. So it's a long-term process, but that's the direction that cover crops will help with. Anything to add, Kate?
So I was just going to say, like, when we're looking at soil health, we kind of look at, there's some principles that they've kind of set some guidelines on, and cover crops fit several of the principles. So they look at adding diversity to that system, so you can, feed a different plate of microbes, even add some diversity from a weed standpoint or disease standpoint into your cropping rotation, because you're changing some of that timing. Like you said, but getting some cover. So not only does it provide the organic matter, but that cover is going to help capture more water in our limited water situation, so you're not losing as much to evaporation, so that next crop is going to help grow a little bit more. And then also you're feeding those bugs throughout a longer period of time. So normally where there's nothing growing, there's been some studies that show that plants actually leak carbon out through their roots. And so if you have something that's growing out there through photosynthesis, it's actually feeding those soil bugs, which is keeping that whole system cycling, building aggregate structure like Clayne said. And so it kind of fits some of those principles, and then grazing can help cycle that back through. So they can offer some, 4 of the 5 principles. They can really hit on some of those things.
Okay, thank you. We've had this question a couple of times this spring. I'll throw it to Lori since she's here this night. Codling moth. It's a problem if you try to raise apples in the state.
It is, and we're getting towards codling moth. We're getting close to the time where we will be thinking about treating. So it depends on where you are in the state, but there are codling moth traps that you can put up that will attract the male moths that you can use to figure out when they're going to start laying eggs. Usually we start seeing activity when the apple trees are in bloom, and that's when we first start seeing the males. But and then we could use degree days and some other calculations to know when to spray, but never ever spray during bloom. And if you need help with calculations or when to spray, you can contact me, and we could figure out where you are and what a good time to spray is.
There are some models that have been developed for codling moth control, and they're pretty accurate if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so those are what you're talking about are the degree day models,
Exactly.
and then we have several temperature stations that are set up throughout the state, but we can figure out what temperature is as long as you're accurately recording the temperature, have a good way to record the temperature, we could figure out when the best time to spray in your area is.
Thank you, Lori. Tim, 2-part question. Number 1, they want to get rid of cutleaf nightshade in the pasture, and they also want to know what herbicide is best for kochia.
Ooh, that's a difficult. Well, so for cutleaf nightshade in your pasture, I would say, it's a nightshade. It's going to be 2,4-D should work fairly well. Sonolin actually would works very well. Is another one that would work very well. So I think the nightshade's also a warm season crop. So making sure you have some biomass left in the field when things get hotter and drier later in the year to be a good competitor with it. Because the nightshade likes an open, kind of rocky, dry spot. And so the more grass you have in there, the better competition you'll get out of it. Best herbicide for kochia? That's a really good question. It depends on probably the situation. If you're trying to control something in bare ground, if you're trying to control it in pulses, or if you're trying to control it in crop and cereal. More and more we have glyphosate-resistant kochia in the state. I don't find 50-50. It's a toss-up whether I find a susceptible population to glyphosate
Right.
in the state. So that's a tough question. If they want to call me, I can provide a little more information on
And
it.
I think your phone number is
994-4783.
there it is. Okay. All right. From Libby, we talked about this. This came in last week. This person has some what they consider poor soil. They would like to rejuvenate it a little bit. They are considering cover crop. Your opinion of that?
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit before. I think it depends on what is in that field right now. So if you're in a perennial situation right now, I'd say you can do a lot of management with grazing. A lot of times a perennial is your best bet to build that soil. You have really good established roots. To have roots that are going to grow through a longer period of the season. If you're dealing in farm ground or something like that, then I think looking at species that are going to put a lot more organic matter in, so high carbon stuff that's going to give you a lot of residue is going to be your best bet.
Okay, thank you. This is an interesting question. I suspect a lot of people are facing this. It's from Glendive, and this producer has already fertilized, but they fertilized lightly in anticipation of a drought. Now they've had a lot of moisture in that area. What are their options to go back in and refertilize, or do you think it's necessary?
Yeah, so it would depend a lot on soil tests. I'd want to see the soil tests, and the producer can contact me. But yeah, that area's gotten a lot of snow, so they probably fertilized for a low yield goal or yield potential, and now that went up. Unfortunately, two nutrients, phosphorus and potassium, stick really strongly to the soil. So if they go back in and fertilize with phosphorus and potassium, that's probably not going to make it to the root zone this year. Nitrogen will, though, and it's not too late at all to either broadcast apply nitrogen or go in with like a cleaned out herbicide sprayer and spray some liquid foliar nitrogen. There's things called streamer bars that can stream between the rows. So I would, refigure what the yield potential is and probably increase that nitrogen based on the precipitation you've received in the last 3 weeks.
They've had good precipitation out there. How about you? Have you had good precipitation?
We've been pretty lucky these last. We got 14 inches of snow a couple weeks ago, and then about 9/10 last Saturday, and then this last week we got 4/10. So
It's improving. We're still in a drought situation around the state, but overall, I think we
hopefully
should.
prime the pump.
Yeah, good point. That works. Let's see. I'm familiar with this one from Galton Gateway. Lori, this person has a new construction, house and barn, and has an infestation of house flies. What are they, other than normal house flies, and what can they do about them? I think these reside in some of the wood that they probably use. Am I correct?
I don't know. I'm thinking that might be cluster flies.
That's probably.
But, yeah, and they wouldn't be associated with the wood. So
Okay.
I'd be happy to look at a sample, but yeah, I'm trying to think of what other flies would be associated with the wood. But those are the most common flies that we have. They're infesting dwellings, and they're parasites of earthworms, so they have a little bit different biology than most flies. They don't feed on organic matter. So yeah, please, my number is 994-5704, and I'd be happy to look at a sample or follow up with you on identifying that fly.
So I've seen it happen before that people have used recycled barn timbers in their house, and those recycled barn timbers then have flies in them for really long periods of time, and the flies come out and for years afterwards. Is that something that, or how do people manage or control that, or do people who use reclaimed timbers do some sort of management for that?
I don't know. I feel like I'm out of the loop. I haven't heard about flies and wood. I feel like I'm going to get home and realize that I'm not remembering something.
I did not build a new house, but moved into a 2-year-old house one time, and for about 2 years we had a fly problem, and I was told that they survived in the wood at them. So I don't know what they are, but whoever told me that was probably wrong.
I don't know about that. I need to find that storage in my brain somewhere. Yeah.
Okay, this is a question that I find interesting. It came in again from the Billings area. This person moved to Billings from the Midwest, and what they saw with cover crops in the Midwest is that they were used after corn was harvested, which we harvest corn earlier than we used to, and then they'd plant a cover crop. Are we using any cover crops in the state following harvest at all?
We are in some situations. Definitely, it seems to be more irrigated, so we can have a little bit more control of that moisture. And then in the areas of the state where we have a little bit longer of a growing season, I'd say most cover crops are used kind of in a full season situation, or the potato guys use it kind of previous to a crop sometimes as a natural fumigant for some pest species. But most of it's probably full crop, not necessarily after crop, just because we have a shorter growing season and then our moisture after crop is pretty questionable.
That's tough. And we talked a little bit about some other crops that are moving into the state, like winter canola, and they're seeded in the basically late summer, and also winter peas, they're seeded late in the year. How do we do with those in the state?
They're kind of, Clayton can probably talk about this some too, but they're starting to come on a little bit. They're becoming more common. I wouldn't say they're full mainstream yet, but those do plant like in August or maybe even earlier, and you might have to do some mid-season management or something like that, mowing or grazing, in order to keep them from going to seed. But they need a pretty established root in order to make it through the winter.
And they have a much tougher time than winter wheat. So the places that grow winter wheat have a chance to grow winter pea and winter canola, but winter pea, winter lentil, winter canola are going to have less of a chance, unfortunately, of surviving the winter than winter wheat, which has been bred for a much longer time to be cold tolerant.
And winter wheat needs to vernalize, so it needs that cold.
Right.
Where the canola and the peas, they just have to be hardy enough to withstand the cold.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Tim from Drummond. We haven't had a call from Drummond in a long time. What's the best thing or best herbicide to kill cheatgrass in a pasture? I think there is a new cheatgrass herbicide.
Yeah, there is this new cheatgrass herbicide that's called Indaziflam. Well, the active ingredient is Indaziflam. The product name is Rejuvra. It's a somewhat expensive herbicide, but it really, if you have a good stand of perennial grass in your pasture and you use that, it'll not harm the perennial grass and block the cheatgrass from germinating for a couple years, which will usually wear it down pretty well. But if you want to go back and rejuvenate your stand, you're going to have to wait a while if you apply that herbicide first.
Okay, thank you. This caller chuckled about our discussion of soil testing, but they would like to know, how do you soil test a garden?
Okay.
So soil testing in a garden, the first thing I would probably do is call my county extension agent. I would say the vast majority own what's called soil push probes or augers, and they can usually loan them to you. They also generally have contacts with laboratories and can guide you on how to do the soil testing. So talk to your county agent. If you say don't have a county agent or you want to do it yourself, I have 2 documents, a Mont Guide and what I call a soil scoop on the steps to take, how many samples to take. Usually I'd probably recommend 5 to 10 on a typical home garden, top 6 inches. Mix that up, send it to a laboratory. I have a list of laboratories and I can tell you what I would have analyzed in that soil. So, but first, try your county agent.
Okay, sounds good. This is an interesting question. I don't think we have an answer, but I'll throw it out there. This caller wants to know about research into what plants might be toxic to pocket gophers. I haven't heard of any. Anybody ever heard of that?
We get questions about that a lot when people calling in for cover crops, and I can say nothing's been necessarily researched. I don't have any sound information, but I know that some of the species that have high glucosinolates, so some of the things that they're still using for bioremediation and potato rotations or whatever, may have a chance or have an effect. There's no research out there, but so sorghum sedans, sorghums, some of your mustards all have really high glucosinolate concentrations, and they might be something to try. I wouldn't say that they're going to work.
Okay, that's a better answer than anybody else could give. I appreciate it. From Chester, and I don't know what this particularly means, it says, what implements are used to terminate cover crops at the end of the season? I'm assuming that's if you plant them after harvest. The regular cover crops, do you terminate those, spray them out? How do you get rid of them after a fallow year?
So some people do terminate. They're terminating for moisture, but then some insurance is requiring some termination depending on your specific cropping insurance. People can spray them. Some of the other guys do incorporate them, like especially more on irrigated situations or organic situations. A lot of people just let them frost terminate, but there's some concern. Certain people have concerns with certain species might go to seed and might become a weed in the next rotation. So back to planning and figuring that out. But I'd say most common would be grazing, frost, and maybe some incorporation, spraying.
Okay. On that note, this person from Lewistown would like to know what the economics are. Is it beneficial to graze cover crops? Is there any data that would suggest that you can financially do that?
I know that there's been some studies that MSU's done, but I have a lot of producer feedback that, for example, I had one guy this year who actually sent me all of his numbers. He had not planted a cover crop before. He put it in about 140 acres of cover crop that would have normally been fallow. He was able to pasture 75 cows for 100 days. Wow. So he ended up running all of the numbers, and that was in January. He held it off and did it as a, so he was able to run all of the numbers. It cost him about $121 a cow to graze that cover crop, and at $200 a ton feed, it would have cost him $300 a cow, and so he came out about $175 a head per cow for that 100 days. So that's just one example, but there's several out there.
That's pretty good data.
Yeah. We've used cover crops like a triticale Austrian winter pea mix and a spring barley spring pea mix. And when you have herbicide-resistant wild oats and you would like to manage those wild oats, you plant that spring cover crop, you go in and you hay it off or you graze it off, and then you can terminate that cover crop and what's left in there. In June, when the wild oats go into seed, you kind of stop seed set and then you come back in and terminate it. And there's certainly a value in being able to manage herbicide-resistant wild oats that way too.
Okay. Clayton, does that add any nutrients to these cover crops to the soil?
Yeah, especially we find when there's a legume in the mix, we see large increases in nitrogen availability, especially if people are patient. And after one time, maybe not that big, but then after the second time and third time, fourth time, we're seeing large increases in nitrogen, up to maybe 50 to even 80 pounds of nitrogen per acre. So that has a lot of value, but some patience is required.
While I have you up, this call came in from Chester again. Is there a fertilizer shortage for cereal producers this year?
I've heard little things. I don't keep it up to speed as much as I should, but that there is some availability issues. The bigger issue seems to be cost. So people can find the product, but the cost is, like I said, 2 to 3 times higher than it was a year ago.
Are most of it urea-based nitrogen now? Or
almost all nitrogen in the state is urea. There's not much else. Yeah.
From Noxon, and here again, it might be the first call from Noxon. The caller has large black ants, perhaps carpenter ants. How to identify them and how to get rid of them?
Yeah, so if it's a large black ant, it could be either a field ant or a carpenter ant. So it would be good to know what it is. You'd probably see sawdust in your house if you did have a carpenter ant. And so it'd be really good to know if you have a lot of ants, usually if it's a field ant or a mound ant like we were talking about before, you usually just see 1 or 2, but if it's carpenter ants, you'll probably see several but it would be good to figure out what ant it is so we could get you there, figure out what to do. If it's a field ant, don't worry about it. Some just kind of pop in and out, but if you're starting to see sawdust and any areas of damage inside the house, then yeah, but please contact me. And at my easiest email is insects@montana.edu, and we could try to figure out what type of ant you have.
Okay, thank you. From Gold Creek, and here again, we're getting some calls from places we normally don't get calls from. Could you please repeat the name of the herbicide for cheatgrass?
It's called Rejuvera is the name of that new herbicide for cheatgrass, and it's a Bayer product.
Okay, thank you. I'm not sure about this one. From Billings, What's the economic value of fumic acid as a fertilizer supplement? Clean?
Probably humic. I'm guessing that's humic acid.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. So humic acid is something that's mined. It was organic matter. It was basically from like peat bogs, maybe that burned. People extract that, and it's what would be considered an amendment. I've only done one study on humic acid. And when it was applied at label rates, which are pretty low, like 1 to 2 pounds per acre, I saw no increase in phosphorus availability or metal availability. But we know humic acid that occurs naturally in the soil in high amounts is very valuable for nutrient availability. I think it's just the amounts that we can afford to put on often aren't enough to have value.
Okay.
Yeah, the
Thank you.
person can contact me for that article if they want.
And your phone number again is?
994-6076.
Okay, thank you. This person is interested, and he says from central Montana, is interested in cover crops, but they're curious how many different types of plants or seeds are normally utilized in a cover crop.
It's variable, so it's going to be back to dependent on your goals of what you're trying to achieve. Cool season ones tend to be a little bit more limited. We don't have as much diversity, especially if we're looking at fall planting. Some of the cool season species are going to be a little bit different. So I'd say it's going to vary, usually anywhere from 3 to 17, 20. So it's a pretty wide variability. I'd say on average, when I'm making a mix or any of us are making a mix, I'd say they're on average probably 7 to 12. It's probably closer to what they are, but it really varies a lot.
What's the most used cover crop mix? Yeah, name the 4 or 5 things that would go into a cover crop.
In the warm season species, we usually see sorghum sedans, millets. We see some sort of brassica. A lot of times those are forage collards lately, just because they have a long period of growth. It takes 0 degrees to freeze them out, so they can offer a lot of grazing late season. And then I'd say some of the legumes. A lot of time we've been working a lot lately with like faba beans. They're a cool season legume. They can handle some of the temperature through the middle of the summer, and they fix a lot of nitrogen. And then they're not going to necessarily interfere as much with a pea lentil rotation. Cool season mixes, I'd say they're a lot of oats, peas, barley, and a brassica in with those.
You mentioned the Sudan grass, and if you're using that for pastures, there's quite a bit of danger of, I think, it's cyanic acid or poison in cattle.
Yep.
How do you avoid that?
So, sorghum sedans, it's kind of like Goldilocks and 3 bears, I like to kind of joke about. So sorghum is papa bear, it's going to have the highest risk. Sorghum sedan is going to be that mama bear, and then Sudan grass alone is kind of baby bear. Basically, the youngest leaves accumulate the highest concentration of prussic acid, which is cyanide. And anytime that plant is, basically above 2 feet tall is the kind of the rule of thumb, you have enough diversity in that plant to kind of mitigate some of the risk. Also at frost, so whenever those cells rupture, it creates that cyanide in the plant, and it takes about a week for that to volatilize off. So you're looking at grazing between 2 feet and before frost, and then post frost after that plant is completely dead.
Okay, good answer. Thank you. I throw the nasty ones at you. From Fishtail. This person would like to know how to control turkeys coming into the yard and porch other than shooting them.
Ooh, I have no idea. I would go with the latter, that they weren't interested. I am not sure how to keep turkeys out of your yard, actually, other than fencing.
Call Jared Beaver, MSU's wildlife extension specialist. He probably has some good ideas.
And we may have to have Jared on here because we have a lot of animal questions like that, definitely.
Or give them to Tim anyways.
I was going to say the 3-inch Magnum.
By the way, wild turkeys really do eat well. There's no doubt about that. Kate, do you foresee a big growth in cover crops throughout the state of Montana, or is it just going to be in the areas of the state that have, quote, poor soils?
We definitely see it's easier to adopt them in the areas of the state that have poorer soils. So when you're looking at, we were talking about this earlier, continuous cropping, your poorer soils don't have as much water holding capacity. So it's better to crop each year because you're going to capture as much water as you're going to grow. Fallow only stores about 25% of the water that it catches in that period. So that means that you're losing 75%. So in poor soils, you can't store much anyway. So you're better to grow a crop year after year. Personally, I think cover crops are going to start to grow. I think as we start to see more issues with sawfly and soil acidification and other things, adding something that's in that rotation that's diverse is going to definitely help. And in a lot of areas of the state, we can't grow a warm season crop to harvest. And so it provides that opportunity to put a warm season species into rotation that might not be harvested traditionally through a combine, but maybe through an animal or even just used as a green manure.
You've seen the growth. You said you provide seed for roughly 85,000 acres. 3 years ago, what was it then?
Probably like 50,000 acres.
So it is growing.
It is definitely growing.
Okay, thank you. Kim, this caller has a perennial bed, and I assume flowers, they don't say for sure, that have been invaded by grass. They would like to get rid of the grass without harming the perennials. Any suggestions there?
You could use a grassy herbicide in your perennial bed, I think. Probably not when anything's flowering. And I'm not the expert of managing weeds in perennial flower beds, but grassy herbicides are sort of group 1 herbicides. It would be what we would spray wild oat with in peas or lentils or something like that. I'm actually not sure if there's a homeowner product that's available.
Post or something like that?
Yeah, Post is a common grassy herbicide. Tomorrow I'm going to go spray cheatgrass out of some wheat that I already have sown in tomorrow with a grassy herbicide.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
You can try it, and also check with your nurseryman. They probably have some.
Yeah, they probably.
So,
Yeah.
okay, comment here. Jared Beaver's phone number, he'll love this. 406-994-3709. And he will answer all these questions about turkeys and other pests that you have like that. And his email is jared-beaver@montana.edu. Apologize for not answering that question. He will do it. And don't tell him where you got the information. Okay, I got a question coming in, but before we do that, I have another one for Kate. Do you do things other than selling seed for cover crop usage? What else does your company do?
So we do site visits so that we can look and kind of make some recommendations. So we make recommendations from a perennial standpoint from grazing or looking at the soil. We do agronomy consulting too. So we do scouting, soil sampling, and then we also sell perennial seed also. So we offer, try to do a lot of educational events. So we do tour and get asked to speak at some things, but then we also try to do field days and other workshops throughout the year to provide education for all of the things that we do.
Sounds like you're busy.
We are busy, yeah.
It's fun too. Lori, this person lives out in Belgrade area and they have a serious mosquito problem every year. Any suggestions how they can reduce the mosquitoes around their dwellings?
That's a good question. I don't know if we have a local mosquito district, but if you get in touch with me at insects@montana.edu, I'll try to get you in touch with the best person there. It would be, I think, someone from the weed mosquito district.
Okay.
I'm not sure if there's one in Gallatin or not, but they would be the best person to help you with that.
All right. And for Klain, this is a good question. We're in a drought statewide, and it's not as severe as it was, but we still are very dry. They want to know any tips that you might have to reduce water usage in crops.
Yeah, that's a good question. The crops are kind of pre-programmed, like they're going to take about the same amount of water. There are some things that you can do, like Kate has mentioned, things like no-till leaves more residue on the surface, so therefore there's less evaporation. Residue management is super helpful. Growing legumes. So legumes are very shallow rooted, 2.5 to maybe 3 feet. So they won't suck as much water out of the soil as, say, a deep-rooted, alfalfa plant or maybe winter wheat plant. And so those can really help store more water. So those are a couple ideas that I have, but unfortunately, plants are really regulated by this process called photosynthesis. They need a certain amount of water to grow.
Kate, any suggestions on that?
I think building up that residue cover, like Clayton said, and then as you do transition to no-till and build some of that residue, you can build more aggregates that are eventually going to hold more water, but it's not going to happen this year alone. It's going to take some time to, improve that soil.
Okay. I said we'd only answer this one time, but I'm going to say it. Box elder bugs, we answer it one other time, but we've had 3 questions about it. What do you do for box elder bugs?
Well, if they're really bad, I mean, you can usually use the shop vac, which I've talked about before. But if they're really bad, you can use any sort of insecticidal soap or something on the outside of the house to cut them down. Yeah, just
And a big vacuum sweeper.
and a big vacuum sweeper. Yeah.
That works pretty good. Last week, Deanna Hyken was down here, and she brought us all T-shirts. And I really want to promote this. Long live the family farm. Triangle Ag last week. It's kind of neat. We need more people involved with agriculture. We're getting down to the end, folks. Kate, thank you so much for coming down. Clayton, everybody else, it's good to have you here. Next week, we're going to look at county extension agents. Shelley Mills from Valley County will be here. I've known Shelley for a long time. It'll be an interesting program. So please join us again next week. Have a good week. Thanks for watching, and stay safe.
For more information and resources, visit montanapbs.org/aglive.
Montana Ag Live is made possible by the Montana Department of Agriculture, the MSU Extension Service, the MSU Ag Experiment Stations of the College of Agriculture, the Montana Wheat and Barley Committee, Cashman Nursery and Landscaping, the Northern Pulse Growers Association, and the Gallatin Gardeners Club.
The kids programs you enjoy are made possible by the Friends of Montana PBS. Thank you.
I have to dance!
And by the Montana Nursery and Landscape Association, a trade association of horticulture professionals who can assist with yard, gardening, and outdoor space questions. Members in your area can be found at plantingmontana.com. And by the Montana Farmers Union, a grassroots organization working for family farmers, ranchers, and rural communities. Online at montanafarmersunion.com.